the votes, it's going to pass. And he's right about 95% of the time. I hope this is the 5% where Paul is wrong. I really, 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 really do. I told you he was playing possum because it was to take air out of all the states suing and power plants pointing out corruption. Just like Obama said, I'm not going to sign the NDAA to kill opposition. Oh, let it pass. He's not going to sign that. I told you, he would sign it. Probably late on one weekend evening. He did it last day of the year in the evening, New Year's Eve. Little present, little sneak attack. That's what criminals do. They attack in the dark. They strike when you're not looking. Wolves come in the dark. Same thing. I told you it is not a victory 6 months ago when he said, okay, no carbon taxes, because Congress was threatening to pass a law saying he couldn't do it and blocking his out-of-control executive power grabs. I said, it's pure possum. They've already got the older regulations he's instituted by fiat, already shutting down new ones being opened, like in Corpus Christi, a $3 billion facility. So we got to buy our power from Mexico now here in Texas in many cases. And they're starting to have blackouts. I told you he'd be back. And he'd start shutting the new power plants down and old ones. Well, he is back. And he's doing it by fiat, as we told you they would. And again, why do they do that? Why did they say this is not an assault? Come out with your hands up at Waco. It's a standard military attack procedure. Because even if it only works on 5% of the trenches, you're rolling up in tanks in an infantry attack. You got bullhorns blasting. This is not an assault. Put your hands up. We're friends. And as your hands go up, you jump in and shoot them and bayonet them. And they found that a certain percentage will just hands up. The Davidians came out with their hands up. They were mowed down. Same thing. Obama says, okay, ceasefire. I'm your friend. Rolls forward with the attack. It's all military attack. It's all military mind. We'll be right back. Stay with us. I had tried everything. I'd cut up.
And he decides who to free.
Coney 2012 executive joked about keeping $900,000 donation of $1 million donation for themselves. We've got the mystery booms coming up. I want to get some into that. We've got a bunch of new Trayvon Martin news. People are even protesting in Austin about it. I meant to get to this yesterday. There's been new developments. I will cover it before this hour is over. We've got the news that I want to get into on the government takeover of healthcare and that ruling, where it looked like the media was getting folks ready for the ruling to say it was constitutional. Now they're saying that it looks like the court will go the other direction. Wow, this is a real nail-biter. But I'm going to go over some of what the justices are saying there. As bad as the Supreme Court is, and the fact that there isn't any difference between the two parties at the top levels on average, the Supreme Court conservative justices did rule the Second Amendment's an individual right, and they have been ruling better on property rights and things than the Democratic appointed ones. You see, the Democrats are like going 100 miles an hour off the edge of the cliff towards tyranny, and packaging as liberal and loving. And the Republicans are going about 80 miles an hour over the cliff. But I've really been analyzing things, and I can see how on the surface I was a Republican 18 years ago. Because on the surface, it's like, oh, they're better. But that's the loyal opposition. But I think the system knows that if they would have said there's no individual right, people aren't turning their guns in. Just like it was the line in the sand in 1776. The British were coming in and taking people's private property. They were raping people's wives. They were engaged in all sorts of corruption, and folks were putting up with it. But when they came to take the guns, it's just like, you know what, that's it. Come and take it. Barrel end first. For 20-plus years, colonists and people from the United States after that were coming into Mexico. That was Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, and other areas. And they were getting land grants because they were allowed to own guns. And then as soon as Santa Anna took over and set up a dictatorship and said, I'm taking everybody's guns all over Mexico, there were uprisings all over Mexico. Guatemala had an uprising and broke off over gun confiscation. It wasn't just up here. You're not taught that in the history books. There were uprisings in central Mexico. He put those down. There were uprisings in what was central Mexico, which is northern Mexico today. Everything turns into a history lesson because history is everything. Those that don't know it are doomed to repeat it. Those that know it have the compass of the future and the present. Humans act the same over and over again. And they told my ancestors, Santa Anna, said, you're going to turn all your guns in. And my ancestors said, no. Come and take the guns. And they did come. And the war started. And I know the system understands that. They've done the psychological actuaries. They know. They know that's what it is. So the Supreme Court, because I'll guarantee you watching them, if they would have known people would have gone along with a gun ban, a restriction, they would have pulled the trigger. Pun intended. But they can't do it because the system knows that's the line in the sand. And 5 million guns are being sold on average every month. Previous records were 1.5 million. You see that exponential, parabolic armament curve, and the surveys are out there. People say, I don't trust the government. I don't trust the president. I'm getting ready to defend myself. The American people are at DEFCON 2. And the New World Order bankers sitting offshore who make 40-to-1 bets and lose and steal private people's money and are so above the law they've gotten away with it. They want to march the military and the police up against the American people. Do you have any idea what the American people will do compared to the Afghans or the Iraqis or any of these folks? I mean, do you have any idea that the American people you're going to be fighting are the 30 million veterans who do not care about dying one bit? The only thing holding back the American people is they don't want to kill police. The average American is smart and is like, well, what does it do if I just go out and start popping police? What does it do if I just go open fire on a Capitol? That's why all the elite, the bankers, are all basically resigning, 90+% of them, and all buying armored redoubts in rural areas of the world. Because they know. They know. The only so I'm trying to stop an armed revolt here. And I'm telling you, it's close. It's very close. We'll be right back.
We're on the march.
Okay, I want to explain something here to everybody of what's happening. The globalists play nations, groups, races, religions off against each other in a global scientific system that they call the New World Order. It's really just the model of the British Empire, the great game, divide and conquer on a wider scale. They are establishing global governance, global taxation, global carbon taxes. But the only way these offshore megabanks can do that is by getting the nation states to accept their fiat currency. These 6 megabanks literally issue the currency. We pay them to have money, when money is only supposed to be a symbol of exchange of goods, so you're not just having to go through barter, but you can have the marketplace work better. But when money itself becomes the energy source, it allows these elites to basically have a spinning wheel that produces gold. And it's not going to be long until they take over the society. It's so simple. A bunch of Ken Lay, Bernie Madoff types literally run things. That's what Corzine is, just even bigger. That's what the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, George Soros, it's all coming out in court. The Rothschilds sued a major newspaper saying, we're not kingpins, we don't have front companies, we're not controlling Russian oligarchs. And it all came out in court, even though they had the power. The judge didn't go along with the globalist control. Boy, I wonder what they're going to do to him. And said, you lied to me, Rothschilds. This is all true. And now a judge, twice in a row, 2 different federal judges, have said the Hatari thing is all made up. Release this so-called group that was going to wage war against the government. Same deal again. I told you it was French intelligence 2 days into it with the French shooting because it had all the earmarks. It's always the same. If I'm out by the lake and see a snake swimming along, how do I know it's a snake? I've seen snakes in the water 100 times or more. I mean, it's really simple what's going on here. And I'm going to go over that and tie the French shooting with the Hatari militia with Trayvon Martin. I'm going to do that right now to show you how the social engineers are manipulating. Daily Mail, Michigan militia are cleared of plotting to overthrow government despite massive undercover FBI operation. Judge rules that offensive remarks did not amount to a conspiracy against the government. Clears the group of plotting to kill a police officer. Only a few gun charges remain against militia leader and his son. But they always do the gun charges. This happened with the Branch Davidians. They were found not guilty of the conspiracy to kill federal agents, all of it. But then they found them guilty of using guns in the commission of a crime, even though they were found not guilty of the crime. And the Supreme Court ordered that the Branch Davidians released. The Justice Department didn't do it for 6 years. I covered that case. I went and bullhorned Walter Smith, who heard the criminal trial and the civil, which he's supposed to recuse himself. I went and bullhorned him. I got phone calls and was told to stop doing it and to stop talking about it. And next, I had 4 guys in a parking lot physically attack me, telling me to shut up. You think they wanted me on that case? The feds were scared of that. They were scared of the fact that Smith was engaging in judicial misconduct on a grand scale. Just like Elena Kagan, under U.S. Code, she helped write a Solicitor General and lobbied to Congress in interrogatories for the takeover Obamacare. She is now sitting in judgment of her legislation, totally illegal. This is going to take over trillions of dollars a year of our economy. And you've got this creature, this fraud. Sotomayor has been caught ruling on cases that she ruled on previously. The case of the firefighters. They don't care. Just like Obama launches wars and says he doesn't need U.S. approval, congressional approval, he's got the UN. That's so illegal. That's so treasonous, the word treason doesn't cover it. It's just beyond treason. That's why I pull my hair out on air. Because it's so ridiculously over the top. Like Corzine caught perjuring. Of course he ordered the $2 billion transferred. Of course he stole it. Of course he's been caught. Months ago, the head of the CME group over it all was in the meetings, said Corzine ordered it. He's been caught now. The memos are public. He ordered it. He's not clapped in irons. Because the Justice Department is a bunch of crooks that ship guns into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment. They're a bunch of criminals. Don't you get it? We're all in danger. All right, I'm already digressing. Listen. A couple years ago, out of all the hundreds of good militia groups out there, it's part of the Constitution. I support them. Any militia groups that attack me for saying this, you have to look at them for being infiltrated and run by feds. Because when I explain to militias how to not get infiltrated, how to not get set up, I always get attacked with a straw man that I'm attacking the institution of the Republic's militia based on the Swiss or Dutch model that I'm totally for, totally support. Anytime I talk about the militia, I get attacked by militias, and it turns out those militias are infiltrated or run by feds. A year before Hatari was set up, I watched video of members of it dressed up like clowns and saying clownish things, and I said, that is directly out of central casting. That is federally produced, like Adam Gadon, the grandson of the head of the ADL, being the leader of Al-Qaeda, uploading the video in the same resolution as the Al-Qaeda bug with the Pentagon bug, Intel Center bug. I said, that's a staged government operative. I told you the U.S.-born number 3 in Al-Qaeda, Anwar al-Awlaki, meaning the Pentagon. I mean, I told you that before it was in the news.